what we are looking at today, talking about WoW Remix and talking about all of the rewards for you to collect, is after we looked at what is the best way for you to collect all of the bronze in the new mode to make sure you can grab all of the rewards. The question is, okay, but which rewards do I go first? Which are the more rare ones? Okay, let's imagine you still don't have enough time. Let's imagine you still can't grab all of them, or very simply the idea of having to do this, grind on multiple characters, daily for 3 months is giving you some very dark thoughts, and you don't really want to do that, and you can only afford some of these. Okay, you can only afford some of these. Let's look at which ones are the rarer rewards, which ones are the harder to obtain rewards, down to even which ones are actually going away once Mr. Pandaria Remix ends, and which ones are still currently in the game for you to get. Because you can save quite a lot, upwards of hundreds of thousands of bronze, by taking some shortcuts here and there. Let's start by presenting again the checklist for everyone to use. This is quite recommended. It gives you the outlook of everything available in Remix. It color codes it by armor type. So you have your cloth, your leather, your mail, and your plate. It also gives you an idea of what is only available in WoW Remix and what is available in retail by simply looking for the asterisk. So these world apparels are only from Remix. All of these mounts, for example, are only from Remix, etc, etc. And it also gives you an up-to-date counter of the amount of bronze you need, not just in total, the 1.6 million bronze total requirement, but also category by category. So you need, for example, 160k bronze for the LFR appearances, 170 for the raid ones, 290,000 for the mythic appearances. If you want all of the mounts, it's 520,000, etc, etc. So this is the best one for you to use to check your progress in bronze. I'm gonna leave behind the link down the description. Also, make sure to just make a copy of this so you can actually edit this yourself. Otherwise, that would be pretty useless, not being able to actually, keep track of what you still need to collect. Now, let's start first by what is simpler to collect. Both in a sense of what you might already have from retail, what you might even already buy in retail without having to buy it in here, and also what you can get just by playing the game, as in looting the appearance yourself rather than having to actually buy this from the WoW Remix vendor. Because as you have been seeing here from the clip of what I'm doing on my main character in retail, I've been just straight up buying sets from vendors in retail right now. This, for example, is the link to the vendors which were supposedly introduced in Mists to give you some catch-up gear back in Mists, and these are scattered. There is like 5 or 6 of them throughout Mists of Pandaria, which sell you pretty much entire full sets of gear. In this case, one of the Spirit Walker's vestments for cloth and one of the Mist Walker's vestments for cloth are, for example, fully purchasable on these vendors in retail. You can also do the same with a couple of these sets for all the different armor types. That's already some almost 10,000 bronze you can save by doing this. I am mentioning doing this in retail because you cannot do this in WoW Remix. This is one of the vendors, for example, that can give you those things, and he cannot give you those things in WoW Remix. The vendors actually are only enabled right now in retail, not in Remix. So if you want to go and buy all of these sets, you have to be in the retail version of the game. No reps, no faction unlocking required. These are just straight up basic vendors. However, there are also vendors that can give you some shortcuts based on your faction rep. If you are in retail and you have played Mists, or you did farm Mists just for the faction rep to Exalted, some of these also give you a whole bunch of sets. That's because, for example, when you go and look at some of the rewards in terms of sets from your character, you will see some of the world sets that you can get in WoW Remix, saying weird things like, this one comes from a vendor, the same appearance also comes from a couple of world drops, this one also comes from a vendor, and these two come from a raid. Like, what's going on here? That's because they share the same appearances together, and one of these appearances, which is shared, also comes from a faction vendor. So as long as you got, for example, to Exalted with many of these Mists of Pandaria factions, you can simply go to the faction vendors, the quartermasters of each faction, and buy yourself full sets. It is pretty easy to find the quartermasters. Just go into the map and look for the exclamation mark. You will pretty much always find where the quartermaster is gonna be. In some cases, you can also check the infinite bazaars. You might find some of the vendors, like in this case, right here. And that can also save you quite a bunch of bronze, because they do end up costing quite a bit. Another thing you can get for free, and now we are switching. Now we are talking about the things you can get for free in Remix, and these are the class apparels, the ensembles. If you have not kept track and been up to date with retail and with Dragonflight, the introduction of the trading post also introduced these monthly rotating ensembles for each class, both of the weapon ensembles as well as the armor ensembles. Now, not only can you already have quite a few of these by simply having bought them with Trader's Tender from retail, you can also now get them for free in WoW Remix by simply completing the Isle of Thunder achievement plus the Landfall achievement. This is a meta achievement, so you get to only have 2 of these complete to get yourself the reward, which is appearance class ensemble for Landfall, as well as the appearance class arsenal for Isle of Thunder. So again, playing multiple characters, playing alts comes into a benefit in here by giving you more rewards. In this case, not having to pay 4,000 or 3,000 for each and every one of these, depending on how many characters you are playing. So that is another discount you can get yourself. Of course, there is also then the other discount, we can say, by simply having to go the slow and boring way, having to open your appearances and actually having to check what you already have, right? It is possible, indeed, for some players to actually have played Mist of Pandaria, which means some of you might already have a whole bunch of this. So the best way for you to check is, okay, what about Thunderpaw Battle Gear? I have all 4 of these. Okay, so, Thunderpaw Battle Gear, I have all 4 of these. I don't have to spend any bronze for any of these 4. And you can do the same treatment for this with mounts, for example. Just go on and check whichever many of these rare mounts from Mists you actually already own. How much of a discount can you get? How much can you, basically not have to spend buying from the vendor of Remix. Same goes with the toys, like the Ali Sky Mirror. We do have the Ali Sky Mirror, so cool, we get to just not buy this now. Now, in terms of what do you want to buy and what do you want to focus first, obviously the asterisk ones, so the ones that will go away once Mr. Pandaria Remix ends, might have more of a priority. So it's very simple in this case. When you go for and look for mounts, if you simply take out all of the rare mounts from Mist, which are still currently in game, right? They're still available after Remix ends, and you only keep unchecked the Remix specific mounts, you will see the remaining bronze required is 103,000. So practically that's what you need to get all of this, to get all of the Remix only mounts, plus another 30 or so thousand for these specific to Remix World Transmog sets. That's another 30k, so it's about 135,000 in terms of Remix specific rewards. And I'm pretty sure that by now, even without having grinded super hard with a small amount of bronze, you are already well past that. So you already are at a level where you already pretty much have all of the WoW Remix specific rewards in the bag. So now the question is, what about the rest? What about all of the other things you might want to collect? Obviously, if you're really into it, you might also add all of the heirlooms. That's another extra you might want to be adding to your, Mist specific things, together with, of course, the arsenals and the ensembles you might have not gotten from retail, or you won't get because you're not going to be leveling some of these characters. After this, though, when it comes to the easier ones to obtain, which also reads as leave them for last, as like a last resort because of how simple they are to obtain, we have the remaining world apparel ones, the dungeon apparel ones, and even the raid finder ones. That's because the world apparel ones are the ones you get from leveling. So as you just saw over here in the case of this demon hunter, which leveled through our remix, I have all of the Thunderpaw Battle Gear. I have 3 out of 4 of the Mistveil leathers already, And I also have one of the almost two and halfway through the other two of the Mogu Breaker battle gears, which are the ones from the dungeons, right? So already I am at 4 out of 4, 7 out of 8, almost 9 out of 12 in terms of completion on a single armor type, in this case leather. So if you are to play multiples of these, multiple armor classes, you get to naturally obtain most of these, right? Most of these you will get just by playing the game. Most of these you will get just by playing the armor type in dungeons and in scenarios. So many of these will come to you naturally over the next 85 days. It's likely that most of these will be looted naturally by playing the game without having to actually spend it in terms of bronze from a vendor. That's why they are very low in priority. These should be, at the very end of your list of purchases. I also added as the next one the LFR. That's because, well, number one, LFR is also the easier one to go through, the easier one to even solo right now in retail, but also because many players are also normally using the LFR to level. They're using the LFR to get themselves the experience thread to get even faster XP. You don't have to go through the pre-made groups and actually start looking for groups and be invited, etc, etc. It's just a click and join quite quickly. So it's easy to join into an LFR raid, which means you will slowly get to collect all of these appearances over the next 2, almost 3 months of this mode. And again, that's where having more characters to play, having more alts gets more and more beneficial, because you will be able to complete, more of these depending on how many of the classes you are playing in the mode. The only adjustments you can be making, of course, is to sort of diversify your raids. For example, if you like to run Mogushan Volts in your LFR, the couple of wings of Mogushan Volts for the LFR, eventually as you keep running these two over and over, you will collect all of the appearances that you can get from Mogushan Volts. So these will not be, you will not have to spend, some 10,000 bronze because you have collected them all. So once that happens, maybe it's time to start queuing up for Throne of Thunder for LFR. Right? And then eventually you will get to loot most of the appearances from Throne of Thunder, and that's the time when you move over to Siege. So you will get to collect all of the appearances from Siege, right? If you just remember yourself to do this, eventually through the LFR you will be able to collect most of these depending on the class you are playing. And as mentioned already, the more armor classes you're playing, the better it's gonna be for your collection. The one in the middle is gonna be normal raids, because while not being run nearly as much as LFR raids, they are still the default choice whenever going to find a group for a raid, much more so than the heroic version. So running normal raids is a pretty good way to get some bronze, and as a result, as you keep running the same raid over and over, like Siege over and over and over, you will normally get to complete the appearance transmog set for Siege. Same concept goes here as what we mentioned in the LFR. Eventually looking specifically for Siege normal will get you to complete the appearances of Siege. So maybe instead of going for Siege over and over, start moving over instead to Throne of Thunder normal. And then you can complete Throne of Thunder normal to get all of the appearances of Throne of Thunder, and then you can move on to a different raid. That is why we have left, of course, the harder one for last as a result, which is the heroic one, right? It's not, exactly nearly as popular as the rest of the raids. It's much more also time consuming to even just find enough players to bother with heroic, even more so on the smaller raids, right? Like Heart of Fear, for example, or the Terrors of the Endless Springs, to find them in heroic difficulty. So that's probably the easiest one to go for in terms of buying transmog appearances, because the world ones, many of them you can get yourself. The dungeon ones, same thing. These one can even be obtained straight through leveling. These one also from leveling and spamming LFR. Same goes from normal raiding. The heroic one is gonna be much slower overall. So it's definitely the better bang for your buck when it comes to spending bronze for these appearances compared to several others. Like, for example, it's much better to spend 5,000 bronze on a single one of these heroic appearances other than spending 5,000 on 2 normal dungeon appearances, because these two you can just get by just doing dungeons, as opposed to one of these heroic transmog appearances from the raid. That's how I would say we could split the priority of purchasing all of these different rewards. We can start, first of all, by simply prioritizing, if you want, the specific rewards from WoW Remix as a starter, which are already pretty much easily obtainable by most players, since the total amount is going to be about 130-ish thousand bronze, even if you take into account the heirlooms, about 200,000 bronze. Then, of course, you can move over to the rare mounts, considering the rare mounts you don't already have from Mist. Those are the next big thing for many players, which is also going to be the bigger bulk of bronze, because it's about 400,000 bronze just for these mounts. And after that, we have a series of less rare and more normally obtained rewards, like the rest of the world apparels, the world appearances for all of the different armor types, together with the dungeon appearances for the 4 different armor types. After that, what comes is the raid finder ones, because of the amount of times you can easily run the raid finder and get appearances that way, followed by the normal raid, which is also something you might be doing quite often, so it's going to be quite easy over time to get many of these appearances. And last one, in terms of rarity and time consumption, is going to be the heroic raid difficulty appearances, which will be the overall more efficient way to gain all of these appearances by simply buying them from a vendor, other than constantly farming them over time in retail with multiple characters, etc, etc. So that's how we would divide, let's say, the priority of how to spend your bronze, and also how to get some decent shortcuts on saving some of your bronze. As mentioned, many of these can be acquired for free just by leveling multiple characters. Same goes for many of these, and same goes for many of these. Also, quite a few of these can also be gotten by simply buying them already in retail without having to actually spend bronze for them, for example. So I will leave behind with you, of course, in the description the appropriate links for the info, where, for example, these NPCs, these vendors can be found, as well as the link down for this spreadsheet for you to organize the plans of spending your bronze. But for today, on this Monday, we are now done. We can say goodbye to each other, of course, as usual, by starting first with our Patreon supporters, together with everyone else who is doing it for free, by liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching, see you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, I have to go and cook, because I am hungry. Now, don't ask me why am I eating at 3:40 in the morning, things are weird.